Good day, dear friends and colleagues. We have a special guest today. She is former Dallas County Sheriff, Miss Lupe Valdez. We are welcome to have her here. And first of all, we from Ethics in Faith would like to state our disclaimer, which is Ethics in Faith is a non-profit educational institute which is not affiliated with any political parties. The purpose of this interview is to educate our audiences on civic engagement, and Ethics in Faith welcomes all candidates to appear in our media platforms and educate our audiences on their values, ethics, and expectation. So after saying that disclaimer, would like
Yes,
to
of course.
welcome our guest, Miss Lupe Valdez. Please introduce yourself and give your background to our audience.
Well, my name is Lupe Valdez. I was the Dallas County Sheriff for 13 years. Then I stepped down to run for governor. A bunch of people asked me to do that, to step down, because they thought a Hispanic would get more votes, a person who is familiar with a lot of cultures and the LGBT. So all of these together, and it did turn out true. I got um, a strong percentage, as a matter of fact, as well as Beto and above Wendy Davis's. So it is true that a person well-rounded in many areas will get more votes, but we still have the money problem. So a Democrat is a little difficult to win right now. But anyway, before that, I was a federal agent. I was sent overseas during the Cold War, and I did some time overseas helping the United States solve a lot of the drug issues, the organized crime. But and now I'm coming back to run for sheriff for several reasons. The individual that I put in did not meet expectations, and the jails failed 10 months after I left. And she's not as outgoing to all cultures as I was. She is outgoing to one or two cultures, but she's not outgoing to all the cultures as I was. So I'm running for sheriff again so that I can bring back the jail and the department to the standards that I left it with.
Oh, that's very good background you have, and thank you for serving our country. And that leads to our next question, which is for general audience, how your values align with general citizens' values and expectation. For example, justice for all, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, human dignity, and against all forms of prejudice and racism. Where are these values explicitly articulated in your platform, if you may share with us?
Sure. It sounds good on paper, but if you don't actually do it, a lot of people are harmed. I just went yesterday to a luncheon where a lady who accidentally voted was sent to prison. And of course, we all went, it was an accident. Why are you sending her to prison? You don't send people that do other stuff, but you send her to prison. It turns out she was Black. Turns out she had been to jail before. Turns out she lived in an almost all white community. So there was several reasons to want to get her out of there. And I remember almost tearing up and saying, that would never happen in Dallas, because a lot of us would never let something like that happen. And it's important to know, and even her attorney said, that would never happen in Dallas. And it's important to know that you have to elect the officials that look at things like that. Different color, different culture, different ethnic group, different teachings, different everything. You need to be able to be fair to all of them. It was a pleasure to run into you at one of the functions, because the first thing you said was, I remember you from when you went to Ramadan dinners. And I run into somebody else and they'll say, I remember you when you went to Kwanzaa. And I'll run into somebody else and they'll say, I remember you when you went to the Irish festival. So you have to be able to look at all these groups. And the neat thing is that as we look at the different groups and the different cultures and the different religions, we become more aware and we become a better person. I have a vast of experience. I didn't even share half of it. But I always say experience brings knowledge. Knowledge brings good decisions. When you're in all these areas, you're able to see the different things and how different people act and behave and think and why they're doing certain things. And so it's easier to understand how to be fair and have equality across the board.
Thank you. That's very well articulated answer. That leads to the next question. How has your public and professional service validated that you really live to these values? In other words, from your previous roles and previous experiences, have you done something that have demonstrated the previous questions that we discussed?
There's several things. For instance, in the Muslim culture, uh, I was criticized quite a bit because a group of men came to me and said, we don't like our people in jail, but if they are in jail, we would like for them to be able to celebrate Ramadan. And so I'm doing one of these numbers going, okay, how am I going to make that happen? Because we serve supper at 4:30. The sun doesn't go down sometimes till almost 9 o'clock. So I'm thinking, they're not asking for impossible things. They're asking to be able to observe the religion. So I went to one of the individuals that I thought would be favorable. I think he was a member of the community, but I don't ask. If you are good, if you aren't, and I asked if he would consider going a little bit out of his way to hold the meals back and then serve them later. And he said he would love to, so it became upon his help that he would do that. Now that was beyond the norm. And the next couple of weeks, I got criticized by the media royally about how I'm doing favoritism and how I only do this and how, it was all about how I want to change things. And I just kept scratching my head and going, all you're doing is helping a little bit along the way so that they can become better people. Practice your religion and practice what is taught, which I know is a lot of good things. So what is wrong with that? We did have to go a little out of our way, but so what? And so that's what I could give you 4 or 5. Well, another one in the Muslim, and there are others. Of course, I'm picking on the Muslims, but I'm not picking. I'm speaking mostly about them. But one of the women wanted to serve as correctional officers, and we allow no covering on the head because it's easier for somebody to get in a fight and grab that and choke you with it. So, and one of them, a couple of them said, we want to become correctional officers, but we want to follow our religion. So I tried to look at the issues, and I said, the issue is, I don't want you dying because you have something. So how do we stop that? And one of them said, we can pin it strong enough that it can't be pulled out. Okay, that solves the problem. The rule was because we don't want you to get hurt, because you can easily be hurt. And men too, we don't let men wear, ties or anything like that because they can use them to choke. So the rule was for a purpose. Once we figure out how to still keep that purpose, why not? So I'm honored to say that there were several women that served as correctional officer and allowed to have their headgear. So I mean, there's and I always like to add, we're not a concierge. We're not here to take all of your issues and make you happy and blah, blah, blah. No, that's not who we are. It's a jail. You're there for a reason. We're supposed to hold you there till you go to court or probation or whatever it is you're waiting for. So we're not here to please every issue. But I personally, I do think that if it is of value to one group, then we should try and do something to take care of that. And you're not going to come in and say, well, my value is that I have steak every night. Well, it ain't going to happen. You know? It has to be a sensible value. And so, and we can, we don't have to be so rigid and that we can't help other people serve, because those correctional officers are doing a service. And so why not find a way for others to serve? And I think I can go on in many cultures to indicate how, while we were sure, we try to make it possible for you to feel valuable as a human being and not degraded.
Yeah, that's excellent response and experience you have shared. As I have seen as a volunteer Muslim chaplain in a federal prison, it is equal for all faith, all ethnic background, and every race. The federal laws that we have in a federal prison. I mean, it seems like you are trying to replicate some of the federal laws into the state prison and jail, and I
So,
think that is a pretty good strategic decision you have made.
mhm. We're trying to do things that will help the people not come back. No, we help you in your religion, we help you in job skills, we help you find a job, find a home, then, more than likely you won't come back. While I was there, when I started, it was 8,500 inmates. There were mattresses on the floors because there was no room in the bunks. There was mattresses all over. There was 8,500 inmates. The capacity is, I think it's like 6,900, and there was 8,500. It's actually 7,000, but because you can't put a bunch of people together, like a 17-year-old with a 39-year-old, a rapist with, a young person that might be influenced. You can't put them together. So because of that, you can't always fill up the jail. It has a 7,000 capacity, but you can't always just say, oh, there's room here, let's throw that person in there, because there's going to be a fight. The wheelchair, people in wheelchairs, and all things. So when I first got there, it was 8,500. When I left, it was 5,500. And a lot of that had to do with helping them find job skills, machinists, welding, commercial printing, dog training, bicycle repair. Help them find through the college would help us teach them. So when they left, they had a certificate that they could go present to a job and say, I am qualified in this, with a certificate from the college. So the numbers were down quite a bit. And I intend to bring that back. It went away, and I intend to bring it back.
There is a significant reduction of the population from inmate, and that is also very beneficial that you have trained them so that when they are outside in the public life, they do have skill sets to survive. So that is very very beautiful work you have done, and very beneficial for those families. Thank you very much for sharing that. Now let's move to your opponent. Are you ready to face your opponent? How should we explain to our community why they should support you rather than your opponent as far as education wise? What can you offer?
I have faced my opponent quite a few times. I think we did like 12 debates or 10 debates. I don't know how many. At one point, I said to her, don't you think this is enough? I mean, we've done so many. And our opinions are pretty different. There's a lot, we follow the rules pretty much the same. There's rules and standards and policy that you have to follow, and so we follow the rules pretty much the same. But our method of operation is totally different. For instance, the programs I told you about, they're not going to come to you. You have to go out there and find them. I tease my opponent about armchair management. You sit in the armchair and you expect everything to take care of itself. Operations will go on normally, but that's not going to make any big improvements. You need to get out there and go. For instance, I'm already talking to the Southern Dallas Employment Association, and they specialize in finding employment for difficult to fit people who don't have IDs, people who are homeless, people that have never made very much money. They specialize in this. So we're already teaming up so that we can do something. The mental health, most of the people know that right now the mental health is being taken care of in jail. There's no big mental health hospital like there used to be in the 60s and 70s that would actually, well, the reason there's not is because they didn't do a very good job of taking care of them. So there's nowhere else to send them. So you send them to jail, which is no place for the mentally ill. So I am reaching out to different organizations that specialize in mental health. If we get them to this point where you take them, there's some that they cannot take. Some people that they don't know where they are. They're talking to people that are not there, and if you put them in a cell, they're going to bang their head. So you have to take care of them a certain way. But we can start them there and then help them with medication and training to where they can go somewhere else. And so we need to partner with these organizations to help them get to those other places. My opponent has not done it in the past. I think I have brought it up so many times that if I should lose, she'll probably pick that up, which I hope she does if I lose. But I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose. So there's a lot of things you can do to not only help the people get out of that rot. You can't bring them in, send them somewhere for 5 months, and then put them out to the same place they came to before. They're not going to change. That's not going to improve anything. We need to do further to change that. I always said, I want to make taxpayers, not tax users, out of those people. If they get out, find a job, start buying their groceries, start paying renting a place, start doing all that, they become taxpayers, not tax users. Right now, the county is paying for their stay. Let's teach them a skill that they can get out on their own and then help the county pay for other things. So there's a lot of things that we see differently. I'm also more innovative. I look at things and go, why can't we do that? In most jails, prisons, it's, well, no, that's the policy, that's the rules, we can't do that. Well, let's see what the policy says. And if we can still do it and still keep within the rules, why not? Let's find a solution that isn't always, can't do that. Can't do that. Yes, we can. But we've got to work at taking care of the challenges so that we can get better at it.
Yeah, that seems a very interesting way to counter your opponent. Next question is, what is the key appeal of your opponents that you will have to counter? What's the strength of your opponent that you have to deal with it?
No, I'm going to have to be, I hate to do this, but I'm going to have to be blunt. John Wiley Price wants her in office. So I'm not running against Miriam. I'm running against the machine of John Wiley Price politics. That's what I have to overcome. He's been in politics so long, he has a machine going. And he can send out texts and he can send out emails. He has his own that he can do that. We don't have that. So we have to pay somebody else to do that. So because we can't raise as much funds, we can't send out as many as he can when he has his own. But still, I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem, because the majority of the people who have asked me to run have been African American officers that work in the department. So I say to them, okay, I'll run and I'll come and make the changes, but you got to help me. And they always say, yes, ma'am, we're going to help you. I'm telling my friends and my family and that. So that may be what may help me overcome the machine, because he has a strong driven machine. He's been doing it for almost 30 years and he knows exactly what to do. So that's my biggest thing that I have to overcome.
Okay, good identification of the strength of your opponent. I wish you
What's that?
good luck. Good luck in countering that strength of your opponent. All right, next is the easiest one. What do you see the key weakness of your opponent, which you work in your favor, which work in your favor? The weakness of your opponent.
There's several, but I think the main one is that even when we do debates, people have said she doesn't even look up and smile. I think the easiest one is that when there's one-on-one or one-on-group confrontation, the comment I get is she's stoic, and I like people, so I smile. I enjoy. They say that politics is you should be friendly to people, and for me that's not hard because I like it. I like being friendly to people. I like smiling. I like getting to know them. So it's easy for me. On the other hand, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing for her. I mean, it is for the campaign, but that's who she is. She just, when I said, let's shake hands after the debate, she said, I don't like shaking hands. I said, okay, we won't shake hands then. But see, little things like this. And when we're talking to people, I'm smiling, she's frowning. I'm, trying to look at their eyes and get their concerns, and she's telling them what is going to happen. So there's a total difference of approach. There's a difference of, and I call it different personalities, but it also goes into your management style. This is how you also manage. So one of her, I think her main weakness, and it's obvious by the officers that are coming to me and saying, please run against her. She doesn't even care. I don't think it's that she doesn't care. I think it's that she doesn't know how to respond to people. So that's
Okay. Thank you very much for sharing that. And then the last question we have, what targeted messaging to diverse communities are you using to convince them? So to entire diverse community in Dallas County, do you have any targeted messages for them to vote for
I think
you?
that's an easy one. I think that's an easy one. We all want to be treated equal, and we all want justice. Like I said, the speech we heard yesterday at lunch, or the speakers that we heard, were so painful because that Black woman got no justice where she was at. And like I said, the attorney said that would never happen in Dallas. But that's what we want. We want to be treated like anybody else. There's no easy road. I remember hugging the father of a Black gentleman that was about to be sent to prison for life because he murdered somebody. And the father was in pain. And I looked at him and I just hugged him. I just hugged him. There was no judgment on whether he fathered wrong or whether there was no judgment. I just hugged him. And he said, in these situations, nobody wins. 10 years later, I do not even remember that gentleman. 10 years later, that gentleman comes to me when I'm at a polling site and said, I'm going to vote for you because. And then he said, do you remember this incident? I said, yeah, I think but I expressed my concern to many people. But I do remember that he said, in situations like this, nobody wins. Because someone or someone in your family or something has committed a horrible crime, has been abusive or something, does not make the family monsters. So we have to make sure across the board that we take care of people. But before you leave, I want to make sure that you hear that early voting starts on Monday, May 20 to 24th. And it makes a difference who's at the top. I usually say the tone sets the top. The top sets the tone. Excuse me. The tone is set by the top. Whoever's on top will set the tone as to what happens in the whole department. And I honestly believe I'm the better candidate in that area and many more. So don't forget to vote.
Of course. Thank you very much for sharing your background, your experiences, and your targeted messages to the audience. And we wish you good luck, and we
Thank you.
encourage all citizens to,
Yes,
uphold their civic
yes,
rights, and,
and
to
to
vote
vote.
for whichever candidates they feel, best to meet their expectation.
I
Thank you
would
very much.
I would prefer you vote for me, but just go vote.
Thank you very much. And
Thank
have a
you.
good day. Wish you good luck.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.